According to Vox on the Hateful Eight, the film provokes through its politics, which argue that the United States is a sham, a system of corruption upheld by the corrupt for their own gain. If you had to name a side the film is on, it'd probably be that of Jackson's character, a black man trying to make his way in the post-Civil War Wild West. I'm with you so far. There are lots of interesting things going on in this film, but the actual experience of watching it is like working on a puzzle that's missing a few of its pieces. What? You know what things are supposed to look like, and you have a pretty good sense of how the full picture comes together, but you're missing just enough information to feel like something's not quite right. As it stands, The Hateful Eight is a beautiful film, filled with images and ideas that will stick with me for days. Oh yeah. However, it never quite clears the bar it's trying to jump over. This movie has a lot on its mind, but it would rather smear its thoughts in the audience's face than force us to think about them for ourselves. Or, according to a certain person named Quentin Tarantino, frankly, sophisticated audiences aren't a problem. Dumb audiences are a problem. Vox. You're watching Cin Pol. Spoilers. The Hateful Eight, by far the most provocative film I have seen all year. It is January. But truly, after you see Jennifer Jason Leigh go on an angry close-up single-shot extended monologue through her freshly broken front teeth, all while covered in her brother's blood and brain matter, you are scarred for life.
You're starting to see pictures, ain't you?
I am never getting that out of my head. But to listen to Vox, there's very little more to the film than just that. Another one of Quentin Tarantino's bloody, gaudy, curiously directed films which cares a lot more about what is shown than what is said. But you're watching Cin Pol, the show dedicated to revealing the subtle, subversive cinematic politics in the films that you otherwise might have enjoyed. Because if you don't catch it, you're susceptible to it. But if the film isn't about spectacle alone, what is it about? What is the political angle of The Hateful Eight? Well, first, Vox was right in that the film is about the black man. It's about his struggle in America and the hate directed at him by whites and the hate that is generated in him. The hate is most vividly depicted to us when we first meet Sheriff Chris Mannix. When Mannix meets the film's main black man, Major Marcus Warren, he launches on stories about how much he hates blacks. We know his hate for blacks principally from the fact that he was a Confederate soldier in the Civil War, and because he tells of all kinds of terrible stories about Warren's past. He is very eager to try to villainize the black man before everyone possible. This element is typical of a liberal film. When a director criticizes the Confederacy, it's almost always going to be a left-leaning film. Liberals hate everything the Confederacy was about, whether it's the smaller government, states' rights, individual freedoms, or, of course, slavery. And slavery, being the now universally disparaged element of the then South, is usually latched on by liberals as an opportunity to criticize the Confederacy as a whole. This being done in the film, we now have a villain. But he's intended to be much more than just a villain. He's also meant to encapsulate the director's vision for how racial healing can come to fruition, which is why he's the single most important character politically in the film. The way in which he is going to come to racial healing is the key to understanding the film's political message. There are two ways that this man could receive the racial healing or the tolerance of African Americans that he needs in the film. Either through the way that liberals believe goodness is brought about, or by the way that conservatives believe goodness is brought about. So what are those two ways? Well, if you saw our Cin Pol for the Battle of Five Armies, you've probably got a pretty good guess as to what they are. The left-leaning person believes that a righteous thing is found within a man, and that the only way to get in touch with that righteousness is to remove the external factors of life which infuse evil into a person. In this case, that evil is hateful racism. In such liberal films, a person usually makes his decision to do the right thing at a time when the stakes are low, as there is no compulsion to do evil. Rather, there is opportunity to do good. A prime example of this is seen in a film like Inside Out, a film where the main character, Riley, is negatively influenced by life's stresses in the form of moving away from home, losing her friends, and missing her hockey team. All this negative external pressure forces Riley to run away from home. And it's not until the goodness inside her is finally tapped into, in a moment of quiet on a bus, when her plan to run away is in full swing and she is of the opinion that she is about to get her old life back, that she is allowed this important moment of introspection, a chance to let that which is inside her prompt a righteous return to her parents. A conservative film does the opposite. A right-leaning person tends to believe that there is nothing inside of a person but evil, and that righteousness only comes from external forces. Thus, conservative films like The Battle of Five Armies depict their hero as doing the wrong thing until he is forced by something like an orc army to do what is right. So, in The Hateful Eight, if the film is in fact consistent with its pre-established liberal leanings, we would expect that the apex of the film would find our hateful character, Mannix, losing his hate at a time when the odds are in his favor, when the pressure is off, and he has the chance to introspectively realize that he does not want to be a racist after all. So let's look at that apex. At the apex of the film, we see our black man, Warren, and our hateful white man, Mannix, joining forces for the very first time. Why did they join forces? Because the revelation has just dawned upon them that one, in fact all, of the other people in the cabin in which they are staying are trying to kill them. So Mannix is forced to join forces with a black man in order to protect his own life, which means that the threat against Mannix's life became an external force for good, compelling him to overcome his racial prejudice, which is not what we would expect from a liberal film at its apex. It's very right-leaning. So maybe film critics like the one from Vox are actually right. Maybe sometimes stupid film directors get too caught up in the spectacle of their film and lose sight of the coherence that they're actually supposed to keep in their films. That is what...
Hi, partner.
Actually, it's kind of a bad time.
Now that was a messy bit of film interpretation, because it wasn't the apex of the film. My name's Nate, and here's where the apex of the film is. You'll recall, if you saw the film, that immediately following this compulsive alliance, that the two men were ambushed and a brief shootout ensued, resulting in our black man running out of ammo and our racist, though after being shot, getting placed in the happy position of sitting between a few remaining bad guys and our disarmed African American as the only one with a gun. At this point, our happy racist is left holding all the cards, resulting in the bad guys offering money if the Confederate will let him go and shoot the black guy, and the black guy is left begging for mercy. It's a win-win for Max.
Now we're talking!
He kills the bad guys, his life is saved. If he kills the black guy, his life is saved, and he makes a big heap of load of money.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
He's between a blessing and a free place, and has the chance to reflect apart from any compulsion on that which is the right thing to do. And his choice is to join forces with a helpless black guy. Nothing forced him to make that choice. Welled up from within him once he had the chance to let it. So you see, if you ain't stupid and consider the film in its entirety, it's a fully cohesive liberal film. Not saying it's easy to pick apart. It's subversive on purpose. But, provided you're not a stupid audience, the film is not one which would necessarily rather smear its thoughts in the audience's face than force us to think about them for ourselves. Provided you think critically. Think for yourself.
Focus on what's going wrong. There's always a way to turn things around.